Mr. Sato here, already back with another what if, because in the making of the final part for What If Naruto was trained by the Grand Priest, I had a great idea. It was based off the very first anime I've watched, Soul Eater. So, this was What If Naruto was a weapon meister. I think that's how you say it. So, how this works, since normally people aren't really born weapons here, it's I'm throwing it out of the window and I'm giving it a new thing. So the Meister, Naruto, can shake hands with someone, and this would allow the other person to choose whether they want to become his weapon or not. So it's kind of like an invite pact kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? And let's just get into it. So this starts off before the bell test takes place. So it's like right when they're waiting for Kakashi. And Naruto walks up to Sasuke, and he would stick out his hand, attempting to make peace between them for this bell test. He doesn't know why, it just feels right. And Sasuke shakes his hand because he knows that Naruto can't really compete with him, but it would be better and it would be more efficient if he didn't, and it would just be annoying to Sasuke. So Sasuke decides to make peace, as Naruto calls it, with Naruto. And they would shake hands, and all of a sudden, Sasuke would be in this white room. Everything was white, and the Grim Reaper from Soul Reaper, I don't know if you know how he looks or not, would be standing in front of Sasuke. And he would hold out one of his hands and say, Sasuke, you can either become Naruto's weapon, or you will stay as you are. Sasuke would ask who he was, but the Reaper wouldn't say anything. He would just stare at Sasuke. Sasuke would run over to him and punch him, but he would disappear and appear right behind him. And Sasuke would then turn around. The Grim Reaper would then repeat the exact words he said. So Sasuke would be confused. Become Naruto's weapon. What does he mean by that? And out of curiosity, he says, I will become Naruto's weapon. And all of a sudden, he feels much lighter. And he looks around. And he can see everything around him, but he can't see himself. Well, that's until he looks into Naruto's eyes, and Naruto is utterly shocked. And over Naruto's head, Sasuke can get a glimpse of a blade. Sasuke had become a scythe. Sasuke starts to panic, and Sakura starts to hear this, as his voice can still be heard in weapon form. And Sakura would ask what Naruto did with Sasuke, and Naruto would say he doesn't know. We shook hands, and all of a sudden, he just turned into this. Sakura, wanting to be with Sasuke wherever he is, she would go to Naruto and tell him to shake her hand, because she's a mega simp like that, So Naruto shakes her hand. She gets into the same room Sasuke was in, and the Grim Reaper gives her the same two choices, and she chooses to become Naruto's weapon, as it makes no sense to her, as Sasuke's a weapon and he's with Naruto, so she assumes this is what Sasuke had chosen. but it kind of confuses her as she thinks they hate, which is kind of true. But she ends up becoming Naruto's weapon as well. And she looks around just like Sasuke did and realizes it worked. She had become a sword, and Naruto would just stare at the sword as this was once the girl he liked, but now it's a sword. Then Naruto would scratch the back of his head and say, "Don't shouldn't you guys know how to transform back?" And this startled Sakura and Sasuke as they realize they don't know how. So Kakashi would then arrive and he would look to see Naruto wielding a scythe and a sword. He would say, "Where's the rest of your team?" And Naruto would say, "They're right here," pointing at the scythe on his back and the sword, and holding the sword in his hand. Kakashi would be confused as he would then hear Sasuke's voice. "He's not lying," Sasuke would say, as Kakashi would then fall to the ground in astonishment as Sasuke is a talking scythe. And in his head he would say, well, they could still take the bell test since this would be considered teamwork. So Kakashi would then get up and say, "No matter. After you complete the bell test, we'll try to figure out a way to get you guys back." And Sasuke says, "Oh, this is hopeless. Naruto's the one controlling us, so there's no way we win this." Naruto say, "Oh, shut up." He would wave hand signs and yell, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." He would run over to Kakashi and start swinging his sword aimlessly, and Kakashi would block and dodge easily, using his kunai to block the sword. As a shadow clone of Naruto would then run up to Kakashi, and Naruto would throw his sword towards the clone, and the clone would catch it and start spinning rapidly, trying to cut Kakashi, but it was a futile attempt, as Kakashi would jump over him and stomp down on his head, making the shadow clone poof. Another of Naruto's shadow clone would then pick up the sword and start slashing at Kakashi, and Naruto would then pick up Sasuke, take Sasuke off his back and start swinging at Kakashi. Kakashi is still able to dodge all these attacks with ease, and Sasuke has an idea. He can still see his hands, so doesn't that mean he can still do jutsu? So Sasuke starts to wave hand signs and yells out, "Fire style, fireball jutsu," as his blade would become soaked with flames. And Naruto would swing it one last time, full power, making Kakashi jump far back. But the flames off the scythe would then pour off like water pouring off of a plate, and they would become like a wave of flames going after Kakashi. And Kakashi was caught off guard by this, that he was actually hit. It would burn his arms, as he had used his arms to shield his face. He would then stop, toying around with Naruto, and he would run up to him, and Naruto would use two shadow clones to launch himself in the air, and then make two more, as he would use his two other hands to throw them downward at Kakashi. Kakashi would use his kunai to slash straight through them, making them poof, and the two on the ground would then run after Kakashi, and Kakashi would sweep their legs before stomping on them. And the clone that had picked up Sakura would then run behind Kakashi and slice at him, but he missed, as he would then launch the sword, and it would skim past Kakashi's cheek as he had narrowly dodged it, as the sword was thrown at him from point-blank range. And Naruto caught it midair, and then launched it back. And Kakashi had realized that he almost forgot about Naruto being in the air. And the sword was able to cut Kakashi's arm. Naruto is only getting an advantage now because of Sasuke. So Sasuke's like climbed up, gloating to Naruto being annoying, and Naruto's had enough, so he starts arguing back, which would be his downfall, as Kakashi would disperse the rest of the clones, run up to Naruto, and before Naruto could realize, it was too late, as he was then kneed in the gut, and then his head was slammed into the ground. Naruto would struggle to get up, as he was just hit with some powerful attacks, and he was able to muster up 2 more clones. As they would charge at Kakashi, Kakashi would step down on one of them and then kick the other one, but only one of them poofed. As the Naruto who he thought was the real Naruto would then poof as well, and he would look down to see Naruto using Sakura, or the sword, to cut the bells off of his waist, making them fall down to the ground. And since they have to actually get the bells, Sakura trying to make Sasuke, mostly Sasuke, pass, she was able to turn back into her human form, and she grabbed the bells. This was purely out of desperation. And Sasuke, after they were told they passed the bell test, because, teamwork and whatnot, after a couple of tries, Sasuke was able to go back to his human form. Now, Team 7 had done a bunch of training for a month or two, and then they finally get their first important mission. Well, not important, I wouldn't say, but their first C-rank mission. So while escorting Tazuna, they find the Demon Brothers. Sasuke takes care of them, kind of similar to how he did in the original, but this time didn't really call Naruto a scaredy cat, because Naruto was gonna fight, but Sasuke just got to him first. But he would call him a loser. And then their same encounter with Zabuza would happen, and Kakashi and Zabuza would begin to fight. This would go the same as the original, and Naruto would then yell to Sakura, and Sakura would turn into a sword. "Let's go," Naruto would say, as Zabuza would make a water clone, and both Naruto and Sasuke would begin to combat the water clone. Naruto was blocking all the sword attacks so Sasuke wouldn't get killed, and Sasuke was landing all the crucial hits on the clone. But none of them were powerful enough to disperse the clone just yet. And then Zabuza would swing his sword down on Naruto, and Naruto was able to block, but it would send him into the ground, making him cough up tons of spit. And this will leave Sasuke standing up on his own, as he would yell to Naruto to get up, but he would be kicked in the chest, sending him flying. And then Zabuza would slowly start walking towards Sasuke, dragging his sword along the ground. His plan was to get rid of the strongest link first, and Sakura would be yelling at Naruto to get up. And Naruto would start getting up, and they would start forging this somewhat of a bond over just saving Sasuke, and their souls would begin to resonate. Naruto would dash in front of Zabuza, and as their souls would almost fully resonate, a golden fox would appear, the head of a golden fox would appear around Naruto's body, similar to the soul resonance that happens in Soul Eater. And this is Naruto resonating with Sakura. Naruto would gain a massive increase from this, as the fox head would disperse, and Naruto, having resonating with Sakura, would dash. Oh my god, am I getting called up? I don't know who that is. But he would dash at Zabuza with extreme speed. Zabuza couldn't even Zabuza's clone, and he would slice him up the middle, dispersing him, as he would then look to the real Zabuza and dash at him once more. He would appear in front of him, but he would jump up in the air, landing on a tree, and then jumping down, slashing the back of um Zabuza. This would make Zabuza's hand out release Kakashi, and weakened, he would have to leave the battle. Well, he wouldn't leave the battle. Haku would get him, and then they would leave the battle. After this, wanting to achieve this power again, Sasuke and Sakura and Naruto would hurry up and finish Kakashi's training. And with this new motivation, they were able to finish it. Well, Naruto and Sasuke were able to finish it in an hour and a half. So they could have the rest of the day to work on their skills and their resonation. And Sakura was explaining how she felt in the moment, and all she was focused on was saving Sasuke. And Naruto would say he felt kind of the same way. His whole motive for getting back up was to save Sasuke. Their willpower and their souls began, So Naruto was like, maybe it works somewhat like having a same common goal. And Sakura would then punch him in the back of the head. It's not that simple. It would never be that simple, or we would have done it in during the bell test. You idiot. Naruto was just rubbing the back of his head like, I'm just throwing out ideas. You guys aren't. But they were still left clueless, but they would continue training to try to strive for this power. They would make it to the bridge. Well, this is a time skip for the next few days. They make it to the bridge, and Naruto has not met Haku, since he was too busy training every day with Sasuke and Sakura. This increases all their abilities, and they also train in their human forms, so they can increase Naruto's human form abilities, so he can actually be a worthy wielder, because you can't have strong weapons without a strong wielder. And Naruto would hold his hand out, and Sasuke would turn into a scythe. As he would say, it's your turn now. As he would charge at Zabuza, and Zabuza would charge at him. Zabuza would swing down his heavy sword, and Naruto would swing up the scythe, as he would negate Zabuza's sword. And then he would spin the scythe around his back, using his other hand to grab it, or grab Sasuke, and slice upward at Zabuza. But Zabuza jumped back in the nick of time, only getting his clothes cut. And then he would charge back, kicking Naruto, but Naruto would duck under it, similar to the pose he's in now. And then he would sweep Zabuza's legs, making him fall onto the ground. And then from here, Zabuza would use his arm to press up off the ground and do a handspring, dodging a swipe from Naruto. As Naruto would then look up and see Zabuza falling down, spinning rapidly, about to slice straight through Naruto. And Sasuke would then start weaving hand signs. Well, not you know what I mean. He would yell out, fire style, fireball jutsu, as the blade would then get soaked in the flames. And Naruto would swing it upward with all of his might, even jumping to add more power to the attack. And when he swung his sword, when he swung his scythe, and it clashed with Zabuza's, they began to struggle. As then the flames from Naruto's blade would then start seeping out of control, and both Naruto and Zabuza would begin to be burned. And a large explosion would happen, sending them both flying. And Zabuza would hit the ground hard, making a crater in the bridge. And Naruto would have made, how when they get dragged through the dirt or something, it makes that long line of where they were dragged. That's what the trail Naruto made. Kakashi began to fight Haku, and this was much easier than fighting Zabuza, as Haku is not skilled in hand-to-hand combat, and his ice mirror jutsu can be easily countered by a Sharingan, as seen by Sasuke. So he swiftly defeats Haku. Now back to Naruto and Zabuza. Zabuza had gotten up and started running towards Naruto, and Naruto didn't realize until he looked up to see Zabuza kick him in the chin, sending him flying even further. Zabuza would then appear next to him and start stomping on him repeatedly, yelling at him and calling him out his name, calling them brats and bastards. As he would then hold his sword up and begin to slice down on Naruto, and something snapped in Naruto as he would hear those yell of Sasuke to get up. Naruto would then burst with a red aura around him. This was partly from somewhat resonating with Sasuke, but it was something great, a greater force behind this. He doesn't know what it was, but he doesn't care. As he would then put the scythe on his back, as he could feel it giving him more power even when he wasn't holding it. And he would say to Sasuke, "I'll handle this," before completely being lost in his transformation. As he would appear in front of Zabuza and punch him in his stomach multiple times before grabbing his hair and kneeing him in the face. Still holding onto his hair, he would swing him around before launching him back into the air and jumping above him, doing some sort of a front flip, kicking him back down, and then landing on top of him, springing his leg down into Zabuza's stomach. Now on top of Zabuza, he would start punching him repeatedly in the face, making his face bleed. Naruto would stand up and then take out the scythe once more and wield it somewhat like a golf club, and he would begin to slice off Zabuza's head, but he stopped. Naruto had started to gain control again, and he got off of Zabuza. And then, a couple seconds later, Zabuza would have gotten up and seen Gato's men. After talking with Naruto, similarly in the original, he ends up going to kill Gato's men, but he can still use his arms. He just can barely see. That was his downfall this time. And he has a couple broken ribs as well. And his legs probably hurt a lot. But he still kills Gato and most of his men. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura finished, and Kakashi finished them off. No problem. I forgot that I made it like a GIF to the point where the fire around Naruto like kind of moves. So I just want to show you guys that because I thought it was pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm getting better. Team 7 would then return back to the Hidden Leaf, and they would be informed about the tuning exams that were taking place 2 weeks from now. And they were trained to striving to get stronger than ever. But they wouldn't train in their weapon forms, as they know about how the tuning exams have multiple different parts, and they know about the tournament part where they can't really work together in there because that would be considered a 2-on-1, since it is a 2-on-1. But in the Force to Death, they can still like turn into weapons and stuff, because that's the whole point, is to work together. Yeah, but that's where I'm gonna end this off. Hope you guys like it, and if you don't, sucks for you.